Welcome you all my friends. Headset called A-head. We've got two bearings. The lower one you can see right now. Both are located in the head tube, and then the upper one right there. Removing those is not very tricky. Sometimes the lower one will come out with the fork when you remove the fork. I'm just using the screwdriver, as you see, so that the stem will just hang there and I'm not gonna break any cables. This is the lower headset bearing. Easy stuff. We've got basically 4 different parts. In between those there is a little plastic, not the rubber but the plastic seal, and here we've got all the balls on the ring here. What we have to do is to clean this well. The greaser is important here because you don't want to have any particles in between the balls there. You can remove those from the ring and then easily put those back, but I found out when I'm using the greaser there is no dirt actually left. The other parts I'm just wiping off with the rag because I don't need to use the greaser there. It's all easy to clean, but the bearing, the balls need to be degreased so that nothing will stick there. Even some small particles from the rags shouldn't be there. The smaller one, because this is the tapered headset system, that means the lower bearing is larger. Here, when the seal is stuck, you can use the pliers in order to remove those. Do it very gently. You don't want to deform the shape of this seal because otherwise it won't be like dirt-proof, waterproof anymore. And same thing with the bearing from the upper side of the head tube of the frame. It takes about a minute to do it, minute or so for each bearing. You can see one ball was lost there. Just remember to put it back. It is easy. It is fairly easy job. When you remove anything and you do it for the first time, just remember to put all the parts in the order and with the right side up or right side down. Because maybe for the beginner it might be tricky to know how to assemble it back. And this can save you a lot of time and a lot of stress, because there's no worse thing than installing everything together, finding out that your handlebars won't actually take any turns. And this is the cap. There is the O-ring on the inner side of the cap. I'm just cleaning it. I'm not removing the O-ring. I never do it. It's not something you have to do in order to have everything clean. I'm just wiping off the dirt and the spacers. These are all the parts and the grease, just the general Shimano grease. I'm putting, as I said, quite a lot. If I was not going to leave it like that for another year, maybe I would put a little bit less grease. You don't need that much grease in order to not have friction, but the more grease, the more waterproof system you are getting. So first layer of the grease was there, then the other side of the bearing, a little bit of grease, just to make sure grease is everywhere, nothing will get rusty, because rust really makes a lot of friction. Once your bearings get rusty, you need to replace those. Polishing, cleaning is a tricky thing then. So another layer, so on the other side of those bearing rings, if you will, here, not much, but still all the parts. And also I've put a little bit of grease on the seal. Now, first off, I want to place the seal in the groove on the part you can see right now. So it's in the groove, and another groove is on the other part, on the outer ring of the bearing. Now you want to gently push it back. And I highly recommend that you first put it into the groove of the inner ring, and then once you have it there, it will be easier for you to push it to the outer to the groove of the outer ring. This can be a little bit tricky. Just check whether your bearing is working smoothly. If not, it doesn't mean you didn't clean it enough. It probably means that the seal is not in its place. I'm using a screwdriver here just to make sure I have even line, and now I can feel the bearing works very, very smooth. That's what I wanted to have. Same thing with the upper bearing. So exactly same thing. Now we are cleaning the races on the head tube. This is the head tube. This is the upper part of the head tube. I have to hold my handlebars, especially because of the wiring for the electronics of the Shimano step system. A little bit of grease there. In this way we make sure that the bearing will not stick to the races. It's not even race to the head tube. Of course, some grease on the fork, and the lower bearing is very vulnerable. If you don't put the grease there, the water comes in easily. There are seals, yes, of course, but there's lots of water coming in while you're riding through the wet, because the front wheel will just throw so much and spit so much water right into that bearing. Some bikes aren't even well made there, and the bearing can get very quickly very wet. So I'm using as much grease, so much grease, so that when I push the fork through, when I guide the fork through the head tube, the grease will be just squeezed off, and you will see it around your head tube, and this is good. Same thing on the upper bearing. The upper bearing is usually very clean, usually no problems with the upper bearing. The lower one, that's the problem. You don't want to replace the bearing, it's always some cost, and if you just put a lot of, like, enough of the grease, it will hold for thousands of miles. So these are all the parts, the cup and the spacers. Tricky part, make sure you hold the fork, because it can fall out. Now when I'm putting the cap of the headset with the bolt, now it's safe. Now it won't fall. I'm squeezing now the bearings, and the bearings are ready to be clean. And after that, just a short adjustment of the bearings. Zero grease outside, enough on the inner side. Remember about that. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next episode. Bye bye.